seeing it all over again. Now that's there we are. Okay. Now we are an educational movement. That's what Toastmasters is all about. We do some wondrous things in our educational program, but we're not the whole educational program. We're not going to substitute Toastmasters for everything else educational. And one of the things that we're concerned about today is how students are doing. Now, this is the latest statistics. June 27, 2012, graduation for the Los Angeles Unified School District, 62%. Let's think about what that means. Approximately 40% of the students that go to high school don't complete it. What does that mean to us as a society? If we had someone in our family who dropped out of high school, as almost 40% of these people did, what chance do they have for any kind of a job? What chance do they have for any success in life? And what's going to happen to all of us as a society when we have this kind of situation? Next one. This is a young lady, Michelle Reed. She was featured in a cover story of Newsweek magazine. She was the equivalent of the superintendent of schools. They called her Chancellor of the Washington, D.C. public school system, and she said, "The truth is the state of American education is pitiful, and it's getting worse." And that made me ask a question. Maybe you could answer it. What's worse than pitiful? Desperate?
Boring. Education system.
Now, that's very upsetting. But that's not all. For those that make it through high school, how about the situation in our higher levels of education? They did a survey. Time magazine did a cover story. The other one was Newsweek, remember this? Newsweek is gone now. You know, you can't buy it on the stands. You can get it online. But goodbye, Newsweek. Time magazine's still going. And they did a study and found that 89% of United States adults say higher education is in crisis. Those are just ordinary folks like us that come to that conclusion. Now, Bill Gates, who you know of as one of the richest men on earth, has set up a very fine foundation. And they give money to certain people for various causes. This is a copy of today's Wall Street Journal, in which Bill Gates writes an article about education. And he says we must be looking at education in a new way to see what can be done about education in America. It's called My Plan to Fix the World's Biggest Problems. So he put these people together, put some of his money together, and he had college upper echelon chancellors, presidents, people like that, ask them the same question. What do they think the situation is? Now remember, the people said 89. Now 96% of the people running colleges and universities say we are in a crisis mode. What's the problem? What is the problem? American colleges and universities have three big interrelated problems. What are they? First one is access. I bet many of you are aware that students today in California who are applying to our universities are not being given first priority. You know, you have all those tax dollars that you've been paying to establish our three different levels of universities for higher education. We have the community colleges, we have Cal State, which is the biggest university. Do you realize that? You know, we have these Cal States scattered around, but they're just one big university. Do you know they're the biggest university in the entire world. And then we have the very prestigious University of California systems. They are giving access, first choice, to out-of-state students. Why would they do such a thing?
They pay more.
Because they pay more, and the university is broke. What's another problem we have in education? The cost. My son had some difficulties in school. He finally became a high school dropout. He just made it through the 10th grade. What was the problem? His problem was he was a little too high on his IQ. I remember one day when he was in junior high, and he had a medical appointment, so I came in, went through the office routine, you know, can I get it? And they said, well, just go down there, there's his classroom, go in there. It was a math class, and get your son. So what I did is what most of us would do. I kind of looked in the window, you know, before I interrupted it, trying to find, where's my son? I couldn't find him. So finally I opened the door, went in to see the teacher, and I said, I'm here to pick up my son Alan because he has a medical appointment. He said, he's in the next room. I went in the next room, and there was my son all by himself, studying a math book. Why wasn't he with the other kids? Because he completed that math book. He was a little too smart to be in the middle of the group, and that's where the teachers are teaching. I was just horrified by that, because there's so much more to school for somebody who's in the 9th grade than just the learning experience. There's the social experience. What kind of social experience do you have when you're sitting in a classroom all by yourself? Well, he finished 9th grade, went on to 10th grade. We had that parent-teacher night. Once again, we had a little problem with math. I went in to see her. I asked her, you know, what can we do? What's happening here? Well, how can we, as parents, support this? She just burst into tears. She didn't know how to deal with this kind of problem. They couldn't handle it. Let's see the next thing. Because of the quality of the program, we're not set up for something like that. Well, he made it through the 10th grade and then he dropped out. Fortunately, and I hope for anybody who has this kind of problem, you're aware there is a special examination that students can take. It doesn't give them a high school diploma. Understand, my son never graduated from high school. He has no high school diploma to show you. But that exam he took, the CHSPE, does allow you to take college courses. And in 2005, I'm pleased to tell you, he graduated from the University of California.
All right.
But the one sad part I want to share with you is the fees that he paid to graduate at 2005 have been doubled by now. They're twice as high, the cost. And then the quality of program. What are they teaching there? That's not Lance Miller after a bad day. Maybe you sort of recognize the guy. He's the governor. The governor of the state of California, sitting as a member of the Board of Regents of the University of California. And somehow when I saw that picture, I said, you know, all those other things, access, cost, quality of program, are kind of summed up by the look on his face. They are desperately looking for a solution that will prevent them from having to continue to raise the cost of going to California institutions of higher education. They all have huge problems. So what is the solution? Well, eventually he took his head out of his hands, met with the Board of Regents, and they came up with an idea. The University of California wants to put more classes online. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. I have been a teacher for 40 years in the university system, and I'm not pleased with that because I like to interact with people. Is it so bad that I can talk to real people? I've been tempted, though, as have the professors at the University of California. They're going to give them a little premium if they will design an online classroom. You know, the kind where your kid never leaves his bedroom. He takes the courses right up there in his computer. You know, he has the whole thing that way. Doesn't interact with people. Doesn't have the benefit that I feel was one of the greatest experiences in my life of meeting the professors and having a chance to talk to them. When I got in graduate school, you know what it means to be in graduate school? It means at the end of the week, you can go out and drink beer with the professors. That's what graduate school is all about. And you can continue your learning on and on. Problem, though, is employers rank the 5 candidate skills in quality, and among all those skills that they have, the number 1 is verbal communication skills. It's a little hard to do online. That's what people need. And that's why Toastmasters is the solution. Let's take a comparison. Remember those 3 things I was just talking about a moment ago? The first one being?
Access.
Next slide.
Cost.
Access. Now, just between you and me, how hard is it to get into Toastmasters? If you really want to get into Toastmasters, now they got to like you a little bit, don't they? You have to vote them, be voted into the club. How many of you have sort of turned thumbs down on some of the people that are trying to get into your club? Maybe a little later you wish you had. But not right up. Now the next thing, the cost. Remember what I said about the cost of the university? You know, not too long ago, we had an increase in the dues in Toastmasters. And I don't know how to describe it in politer language, but I heard a lot of bitching about the cost of belonging to Toastmasters. We went from what, 27 every 6 months to 36. When you put that together twice a year, that's less than a $20 bill. So I had to put another one of these in. Actually, I had to double it. I pay hers too. But I think we can afford that for one of the finest programs we can have. But now the next one, that really matters, the quality of the programs, because we're doing the kind of things in there that are so important. Important to our own personal development. Important to society. And I like to think, you know, sometimes people ask me, well, why are you doing all this stuff for? You know, do they pay you very much? And I say to my fellow Toastmasters, I make as much money as you do. But the quality of our program is truly astounding in getting at those things that are so valuable, as we saw a moment ago on there, the ability to communicate with people effectively, the ability to lead, the development we have in our 2-tiered program, our 2-track program of communications and leadership is just astounding. I've heard story after story. Our PRO officer last year was a fellow who came from India. And he came in with a college degree. And he had a technical skill and got a very good job. But he wasn't getting promoted the way he wanted to. And he said, I've got the solution. I'm going to take my technical degree and add to it another layer, an MBA. That'll do it. So he got himself an MBA. No promotion. He was waiting. He was waiting. That should do it. While he was waiting, he came up with another idea. He said, I'm going to get a PhD. And he got a PhD. He's Dr. Neil Shirosh, please. He waited. Nothing happened. Got another idea. Join Toastmasters. 4 promotions since he's joined Toastmasters. It makes the difference. It allows him to take all those things he learned. I'm sure he had a wonderful technical education. I'm sure his MBA program filled him with useful information. Certainly the PhD, the highest degree you can get, added to his knowledge, his abilities and everything. But how do you communicate that beyond the beginning level? How do you end up being put in charge of other people? How do you develop your leadership skills, which makes it all come together? And that's what Toastmasters is able to do for you. The Distinguished Club Program is our answer. You heard Lance talk about that today. And that is such a powerful program. Now, frankly, to be honest about it, Lance says, I looked at that program, and he showed you earlier this morning with all those numbers and all those charts, how they were number 4, I believe, is that right? Twice they were number 4 in the whole world.
Right.
And he said, you know, that's a program that makes you work for something. And he looked at our Distinguished Club program and he said, I don't understand. I don't understand how come every club isn't President's Distinguished. And I was in Toastmasters. You know, I've been in Toastmasters for 20 years. When I was in Toastmasters, we made that transition, and we getting around together at various parties and things, people would talk about the new Distinguished Club program. And it's amazing how many people said exactly what Lance did. I don't understand why every club is not President's Distinguished. Of course, Joe has a plan. Joe's plan, we're all going to be distinguished. Not the 41. In this district, you need 41 to be distinguished. Joe's not satisfied with that. Well, how many do you want, Joe?
60.
60, which means President's Distinguished. Great idea. Let's look at that plan a little bit more. Why should you care about the Distinguished Club program? Okay, you have a handout that talks about that in detail. I put that in there because in that one page, that fellow who wrote that article, I think really explains the DCP's benefits. He doesn't tell how to do the DCP. We'll get to that later, but he talks about the benefits of the DCP. And in that one-page article, he says really 4 important things. Promotes club quality. And does it ever? You know, when you have a goal, when you know where you're going, most of us don't like report card time. I can remember back in grade school, you know, you'd get this thing. They trusted you in my day to take it home to mom. Now I think they send it, don't they? They don't trust the kids to deliver it. But I was always pretty nervous about getting that report card. So, you know, we have an aversion to that. I remember when I was taking statistics, the professors in those days were allowed to post your grades on the door of their offices. And I went over there to look what mine was. I wasn't too happy with it. But there was this other poor fellow, because of the way this professor, he was a nice guy, but the way he graded is he took off for your missed ones, a certain amount. And there was this one poor fellow, I'll never forget this, I can't even remember what my grade was, but I remember his was a -6. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now think what that meant. Had he not taken that test, he could have had 0. Ensuring productive meetings. It gives you the structure. It gives you something to work on. Provides the structure and guidance. Increases the enthusiasm of the club. Is that a fair assessment? Is this guy right? Does the DCP people who work this, is this true?
Yes.
I think it is. It is in my club. A little bragging because you people in 52 were bragging about how many times you got President's Distinguished. I belong to a club that's been President's Distinguished for 14 consecutive years. And I'll tell you that's a bit of a problem for the district. You see, the district has a ribbon that they give you if you can be distinguished for 7 consecutive years. And so when we hit 7, the district governor herself came out and gave us this ribbon. And then the 8th year, they sent the ligot. The 9th year, we got the LGM. The 10th year, It arrived in the mail. And since then, we haven't got a ribbon. Let's try the next one. Here's the Distinguished Club Program. Beware of those qualifying requirements. You know what they are. Every club is assigned a base number. A lot of people say, well, what does that mean? It's pretty simple. It's the number of paid people you had July 1st. That's all. And then they want to see some growth. They want to see you grow. They say net growth because some people lose and they come back up and down. But when you get all done with the thing on June 30th, you got to have 5 more people than you started with, unless you're 20. If you're 20, that's good enough. So think about that. What if you're 30 and drop down to 20? Do you qualify? You still do. Because Toastmasters wants to see a club of that charter strength of 20. But once you got that out of the way, the DCP program really divides itself into 3 parts. And it's in your handout there. I think there's a copy, so we don't need to go into that. But think about it as the ABC. First, you have the awards, goals 1 through 6. And I think that's been described sufficiently at length during the day. But it's those, someone in our district did a study. And what do you think of the 6 awards are the toughest ones to achieve? What's the hard one? What's your difficulty with getting the 6 educational goals done? What's the hardest part? CL? Okay, that takes care of the leadership track. The CL it is. And because a lot of people just don't understand that. But Jo went off to some training. And she told us this morning that maybe, it was a maybe, wasn't it, Jo?
No, there will definitely be a change. I just don't know. Definitely.
You don't know what the change will be. They already made one change. They changed one page. Maybe in 2014 they'll change another page. But they're going to make it better. They're going to make it easier. They're going to make it clearer. But in the communication track, what's the hardest ones that clubs deal with? The CCs. Because you got to have 4 of them. You got to have 4 of them. Now we talked about that a little bit this morning, but I think it's worth repeating that, you know, if you've got some older people, by that I don't mean they're old like me, I mean they're, you know, been around a little while in your club and have finished the CC, a lot of them think, well, that's it. I never, ever have to do a CC again. And what did Lance tell us today? He does one every year. And I want to tell you, I belong to more than one club, and I do one for every one of my clubs every year. Because that's the foundation. I get more out of that CC manual than anything else. So everybody ought to be getting a CC along with other things they're doing to move toward the DTM. B for building. That's where you build membership. And you're going to hear more about membership today and the importance of building that club to add that new life. Go back to fun. Go back to some of the other things, that we're family. And to do that, we need to have new life breathed into us. And new members do that. It's true, it's sad. 40% drop out, just like the Los Angeles Unified School District has with their students. They got about a 40% drop. That's bad news. But for us, in a way, it's not so bad when we lose about 40% and we bring in new people to replace them and revitalize the club. But the important thing to remember is member building is from day 1 to day 365. All year long. We're always thinking of ways to bring in new members. And what better favor can you do to somebody than tell them about Toastmasters? And I don't care if they have that MBA or that PhD. They can benefit immensely from the kind of experiences they're having. You see, so much of our education today, and I'm glad it's happening because we have a better life, a quality of life because it's technically oriented. But almost all of that comes under the category of hard skills. And it's the soft skills people need to progress in society and at work, and that's what Toastmasters can give them. That combination of public speaking, which is a kind of a useless thing, unless you also are involved in leadership. And here we have like that magical pairing of leadership and public speaking to give people tremendous power. And then C, communicate to TI. You know, some people fall down on that. They don't pay their dues. That's hard to believe, but we have a lot of clubs. When you look down the list of stuff that's posted, haven't renewed, haven't paid their dues, or if they have, they haven't told TI who their new officers are, so that TI can communicate all these good things to them. All of that makes up the Distinguished Club program, but in Founders District, we have something that we have developed. It's something that's been around a long time. We just kind of put it together. And for that, please welcome Frannie.
How many people in this group have ever heard a fellow member say, I can't make it today, and they just happen to be the speaker on the agenda? How many of us have really had to push ourselves in order to get in there and give our guts? Today, I'd like to tell you about something that has taken place in the Founders District that will be a nice tool for you to consider using. It's a way to get the focus so heavily spotlighting the member that all of a sudden, what Lance was hoping for, that the members will become motivated and involved, it has a trickle-down effect, because this little trickle that I'm going to show you today definitely is, if you take care of the dollars, the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. If you take care of the members, everything good cascades down to the club. So you don't even have to think about, will our club stand out, be distinct, be distinguished, be excellent. It happens automatically with what I'm going to show you. The very first thing I'm going to do is hand my leadership book to this gentleman sitting here, and he's going to fill out the page called Speaker. You can pick any of the speaker undone things you want, and just put your little check mark there when I'm all done. Also, I've accepted the invitation to pass out my manual, because we never need to give a speech unless we have our manual. And so my friend over here is filling out my Competent Communicator manual. But what I'm going to tell you about today is a way to help your people fall in love with the CL manual. And that is because the CL manual is the set of soft skills that all the employers want, all the employers are promoting because someone has them, and it is what makes you effective in your interpersonal relationships, so that you finally hone your ability to be attentive to another. Oh, they love it when you listen, when you give them your attention, when you focus on them. It makes you a very, very piece of fly things that people gravitate towards you. The second thing the soft skills do is they help you practice appreciating what others do. You are relying on others in your club meetings, and they sense that you are grateful. The third of the A's that the soft skills provide, affirmation. You come in the morning, you say hello to your fellow human being, you have gotten out of bed to get there, you have made the effort, you are an affirmation in their life. Another A, it causes you to better acknowledge your fellow human beings. Now, what does acknowledging others bring about? Again, they love to be around you. When you walk in a room, they kind of come near you hoping that you'll smile and make an eye contact, because they feel a warm, cozy rapport. And finally, I've given you 5, this is the 5th A's, that are the soft skills. You accept your fellow human beings, because you are there for them, you're clapping and cheering for them, you are taking your time to listen, to critique them, to serve them in all of the behind-the-scene rules. All of those A's are what make you successful and make you happy. You know, today Lance said, you're only as important as the people you're helping. So I'll review them. When you are attentive, you're very important. When you show appreciation, you raise the whole mood of the person. When you affirm, that person says, "Oh, gee, I feel more comfortable around this person." When you acknowledge, it makes somebody's day. And when you accept, as you do, any failing at all is right here in our club, and we accept it. All those A's are what people want. It's what people want to hire. It's what gets you promoted. It's what makes you a great team player. It is leadership. Now, on this chart are all the leadership projects that are in your leadership book. So it's really fun to talk to your people about the joy of becoming a leader who is one who is there helping others, lifting them. And so when you look at the next page that I've given you, we're going to show you the trick that we have come up with for our people to be comfortable making speeches. As you know, we said this morning, it's very, very hard to try to get people to do one communication goal a year, one leadership goal a year. That's a big deal. But when you do it, you are so proud of yourself because you've made a commitment. So this is what we have devised in Founders Institute. It's a private little, personal little contract. It's a promissory note that you make to yourself that you will this year complete a communication goal, a leadership goal in this year. You fill this out, you give a copy to your Vice President of Education, and that Vice President will make sure you get help in getting stage time. Now, the hard part. How do you get people to be comfortable making a speech? Well, on the following page, you'll see the tracking program that is your whole educational curriculum plan of study. But go to the next page, and you will see the best little trick for getting people to learn how to write a speech in 5 minutes. Now, here's how you do it. I can't do it with you, but I can tell you it works. You take a table topic session. You have the people divide into partners. You pick one of the 7 questions, and the partners have to talk about the answer to that question with each other. So the question is, who has made a difference? Well, let's take that first one. Wait a second. Where's the first? Oh, Norm, click it. Click it.
One more time?
Oh, no, that's all right. That's all right. I'm not even going to use that. The first question would be on your list. Who has been a light in your life? Now, everybody wants to know who has been a light in another person's life. What is it that makes them tick? What is it that has guided them on a path where they are? What is it that has grounded them? So it's a very exciting question. And if you're sitting there thinking, who has been a light in your life? And you had the opportunity to turn to a friend who could be a stranger or a close buddy and answer that question, I guarantee you would be sizzling with the information. There are ice cubes energy, there's water energy that flows, and then there's sizzling, steamed up energy. you would be fired up and you would not be an ice cube about what do I talk about. So now you've answered the question, your partner's answered the question, you're still in table topics. Now you invite the partners to volunteer. One of them has to come up and tell what they talked about. And so now what are they telling you? They're going to tell you this. I've been asked, who has been a light in my life? Well, today I'm going to tell you. Now that's the opening speech, right? Then I tell you 3 things. My mother has been it because she was an orphan and called me her warm fireplace. Because I was the first of 5, so she called me her right hand. And because I helped her a lot to solve problems, she said, Frannie's resourceful. Now, what do you think that did for me in my life? Set the whole future. She didn't know it. Do you know it, what you're saying to the people in your life when you make those observations? Who did it for you? Now, I've just given you the body of the speech, right? I gave you 3 points. I told you the topic. The topic is, who's going to light my life? The answer, I'm going to tell you, my mother. 3 points to the speech. I could have elaborated the thing and gone on and on and on, but 3 points, and then finally the close. The question I asked myself, why did I pick my mother? So what? Who cares? Why bother telling you? What difference does it make? It makes all the difference in the world because it's who I am today. Now just close the speech. Who are you going to be alive for? So now have I written a speech? I gave you the opening. It's good to always start with a question like, who has been a light in your life? Well, I'm going to tell you who's been a light in my life. Now everybody wants to know. All right? You got the opening? Did I give you the body? My mother? Because. Did I give you a good close? This is why I bothered to tell you. Because it's who I am. Did I give you a speech? All right. Now, you tell those people to go home and make a 5 to 7 minute speech out of that. You've given them the structure. You've given them the close, which is why bother? What difference does it make? Anything that comes out of you should make a huge difference. Now that's the trick that we use to get people to open up, bring it out, share it, and there's a lot of excitement sizzling in that club. Nobody's an ice cube. You're not just treading water. You're all fired up like a steam engine. 3 levels of energy. So you've got the whole thing in your hands. I ask you, go back and whoever you're working with, invite them to try it in table topics. It works. The club gets closer. Everybody learns about each other. And on the last page, if you've run out of things to talk about, look at that section, because that gives you a gazillion more questions to ask that people can exchange ideas with. So now, is it really hard to write a speech? No one should have an excuse for sleeping in and saying, I can't make it. I'm in my ice cube mode. Now the last, no one will take. So if our passion to do this is equal to the task of doing it, we will succeed. So I'm telling you now, you'll have a big trickle-down effect and your clubs will blossom and bloom and shine and sparkle because your people are turned on, because the stuff they're talking about is what they care about. So I gave you 7 good questions. Go use them.
Hey.
Yeah, right.